got Africa's biggest population and it's enjoyed democracy since 1999.
Government corruption, that's a problem.
Burdened by inflation, economic stagnation.
Despite being Africa's largest economy, it does have high unemployment at more than 33%.
Had shot and killed at least 12 people taking part in peaceful protests last night in the country's largest city, Lagos.
So where does Nigeria go from here?
Does not want to jump for that they can stay abused. But would I change my mind? No. I'm still going to go.
Name one person that is a billionaire that is
corruption and a lack of jobs.
The city was removed. There was a kind of panic.
It's unfortunate.
Government should know that we own
our economy. Now we have epileptic supply.
And uncertain. I understand the hardship you face. I wish there were other ways, but there's not.
May 29th, 2015, was the day the worst event of all took place in Nigeria. Muhammadu Buhari was sworn in as president. Despite inheriting Africa's largest economy, his administration set the country on perfect retrogression. And Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Buhari's successor, appears to not only continuing from where Buhari stopped, but doubling down on making the country impossible to live in. In 2015, young people who earned a salary of 235,000 naira traveled regularly to Dubai on vacation. At that time, dollar was sold for 180 naira. Every adult could relate to the good times, a period where the minimum wage of 18,000 was enough to feed a family of 3, and the middle class were buying houses and building homes. Unfortunately today, dollar is 1,650 naira, as at the time of making this video, nobody is bothered with Dubai vacations any longer because millions are slipping into poverty. Youths are parading the streets with their certificates, and yet no jobs. If there is one thing every young Nigerian would unanimously agree on, it is that the 2015 presidential elections marked a memorable event where the future of Nigerian youths, who make up a significant number of the population, was sacrificed on the altar of politics. As of July 2024, the federal government was in talks for an oil-backed loan of about $2 billion. This may be considered an insignificant addition to the national debt of over $100 billion, but it is not the first loan that the Nigerian government has taken while using future oil sales as collateral. This trend started after the country could no longer convince lenders that its gross annual revenue was sufficient for repayment plans. It is true that the revenue of the Nigerian government is becoming less and less accommodating for debt servicing costs. In 2023, the country spent a sum of 7.8 trillion naira, equivalent to about $5 billion in repaying interest on loans, consuming a whopping 81% of the annual revenue that year. That means for every 10 naira the Nigerian government makes, 8 naira is used for the repayment of debts. How exactly will the youth survive with a government that keeps borrowing and not producing or empowering her youth? Worst of all is that with the little that remains, the current administration has shown no concern for being frugal. The government recently launched into a spending spree in 2024, purchasing a presidential yacht, a private jet, and expensive bulletproof tires. However, when it comes to matters concerning the plight of the masses, the national response is slow, and the government suddenly remembers that the country is in a serious financial crisis. This was the exact response the Nigeria Labour Congress received when the request for an increase in the minimum wage was brought up. While this trend has reached an alarming level today, it didn't begin with the ruling class of the present, and the youthful populace of Nigeria, who didn't see any future for themselves in their homeland, began leaving the country in large numbers. The trend, which we now know as the Japa syndrome, began driving thousands of Nigeria's brightest and best minds outside the country in search for greener pastures. The word change, which was the cornerstone of the APC's campaign slogan, promised a new era of progress and reform. However, for many Nigerians, the reality that followed was a stark contrast to the optimistic vision that was sold. In 2024, the nation's Minister of Health and Social Welfare lamented about the physician population of the country, about 55,000 for a nation of over 200 million. Over 16,000 physicians have emigrated in the last 5 years, and it is alarming that the same can be said for every sector with highly skilled workers. But this isn't just a brain drain. A ripple effect has been created that has stirred the minds of youths into believing that education has no place in the Nigerian system. Young people now say things like, school is a scam, and that education is no longer the key to success, given that politicians changed the lock. While the latter may be largely true, more attention needs to be directed toward the quality of Nigerian education itself. A country that values education and cares about its youth would not have taken lightly the kidnapping of 276 young students in Chibok, Borno State, nor would it have allowed the Almajiri system tormenting the northern part of the country to become what it is today. The Almajiri system often claims to educate young children in Islamic studies, but in Nigeria, these children are sent into the streets as beggars by the Malams, who give them a quota to deliver by the day's end. When the young minds of the country are not polished by a refined educational system, the result is youths that are easily swayed into societal vices like cultism, fraud, prostitution, and thuggery. In fact, it is estimated that over 10,000 young Nigerians have been killed in cult-related violence between 1996 and 2019. One might think that these numbers only concern members of confraternities, but this is not true. There have been countless cases where an innocent person was murdered out of mistaken identity or as collateral damage in cult clashes. This shows that no one is safe from the vice of cultism, especially youths who are always at the receiving end of this menace. The future of young Nigerians keeps increasing in uncertainty every single day, particularly following the events surrounding the EndSARS protests and recently Tinubu's government. Initially, EndSARS was sparked by widespread police brutality. The movement quickly evolved into a larger cry for systemic change, encompassing issues such as unemployment, corruption, and the lack of basic opportunities.
The economic crunch have combined to make this moment so explosive.
The Nigerian government's violent response resulted in the tragic events of October 20th, 2020, at the Lekki toll gate. That massacre shattered the remaining hopes of many young Nigerians. The lack of accountability and transparency in handling the aftermath of the protests revealed a deeply entrenched system that prioritizes power over the well-being of its youths. After EndSARS, several young Nigerians began flocking into the tech space and other self-development engagements to create a future for themselves. However, the crippling policies of the Nigerian government prevailed once more in February 2024, when the CBN declared a ban on all cryptocurrency activities and the blockchain hub, rendering thousands of Nigerians jobless and further suffocating any means of poverty escape for the young populace who were just struggling to make a living in the world's poverty capital. The government did not provide a sufficient rationale for this act, leading many to begin accepting the fact that the plight of Nigerian youths has always been by design. Although the hope of breaking that design once appeared on March 24, 2022, when a politician named Peter Obi, in whom the youths believed they had found a savior, declared his intention to run for the 2023 presidential elections. In shocking turn of events, all glimmers of hope disappeared on the faces of young Nigerians when, despite a massive campaign and a controversial election with the highest youth turnout in Nigeria's history, the Independent National Electoral Commission declared the candidate of the ruling party the winner. Today, things have become even worse than yesterday. Things are so expensive, and there is no guarantee that the future of Nigerian youths will not be even worse than the current situation. While contemporaries in other African countries are making plans for their future with supportive government policies, the subject of the future is no longer discussed among Nigerian youths, as even the survival of the present is no longer guaranteed. It is 2024, and the country is sinking in crippling debt with a huge portion of future revenues already sold off. No efforts have been made, and rescue isn't forthcoming from anywhere. Should there even be a rescue, it would be important to remember that the consequences of 10,000 wrong steps are not just wiped away by taking one right step, and the damage done to Nigeria will surely have a lasting impact, meaning that either way, Nigerian youths are in for a long run. The JPA route is becoming less of an alternative, as visa officers have now become strict toward Nigerians. The UK Home Office highlighted a 38% drop in study visas issued to Nigerians from March 2023 to March 2024. Even the United States has reported a downtrend in its visa application approvals for Nigerian citizens as the Japa fever becomes more heightened. Therefore, Nigerian youths are left with no option than to begin accommodating the mindset of having a future in their home country, even as the current situation projects otherwise. Without a robust legal framework that holds leaders accountable and punishes bad behavior, the cycle of corruption and mismanagement will continue.
See, the National Assembly, I think they are decided that they are the bandits. They are the bandits, all of them. The political class has decided that they are the bandits against the people of Nigeria.
The challenges are real, and the road ahead may be tough. But by taking intentional and proactive steps, a future can be carved out. In a hopeful twist, the recent surge of the youth's involvement in the country's political affairs could be the spark that would bring real change. By coming together, the masses have the power to steer through the difficult years of past misgovernance and work towards a brighter future.